Please welcome back, now regular size, Finn Wolfhard and Zoe Britt. Thank you so much again.
Yeah, of course. I'm gonna twist. Yeah, okay. I feel like we're so far apart.
I just don't want to lose anybody.
Yeah.
There is an edge here.
Yeah.
Just the chairs are scary.
We'll kick off our shoes
sometimes.
Okay, cool.
Well, we talked about this a little bit after the last reading, so we're going to repeat a couple of things just because they're interesting. I wanted to start by asking about the genesis of the project, because as you mentioned earlier, this started as an audiobook.
Yeah.
And then when Jesse Eisenberg turned it into a movie, well, the audiobook was 3 separate narratives of this family, right? Mother, father, son.
Exactly.
And then when Jesse decided to turn it into a movie, he basically collapsed the timelines, turned it into a linear story, and wrote himself out because he couldn't play that part.
Exactly, yeah. So, yeah, in 2020, he wrote a sort of audio play that are 3 separate monologues, one from the perspective of a father who's sort of Ziggy's dad, who can't really connect to his son, to his baby, and then the other one is sort of the character you see, Evelyn, when she's around 20 years old, sort of talking into a voice recorder, and then the third story is basically Ziggy, kind of having a therapy session with this robot, and he basically he wanted to take those 2 stories, the Evelyn character and the Ziggy character, and he wanted to sort of see them living under the same roof. And I was lucky enough to be a part of that audiobook, and then he wanted me to be in the movie too, so it was really cool.
I want to know more about the robot.
Yeah, well, it's just basically he wrote it so that the mother is talking about she's sort of talking to a voice recorder that she's going to send to her boyfriend at the time who was fighting in Iraq. This is post 9/11, and then it jumps forward to her son, who it's now set in 2030 something, and he's playing music on hi-hat still, and he's ordered by the school because of his behavior to go to a behavioral therapist, which in 2030 in this story is a robot, who sort of just listens to him, makes beep noises, and then eventually makes a beep noise and lets him go. And that's sort of that world. But he made it now. He made it present day now.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how that would be less interesting.
It's a little weird. Yeah, I mean, it's more it's a little more sci-fi. The world's a little different. But yeah.
Yeah, but in this way, in grounding it in the present day, we also have the 2 full narratives for each of you. Who we talked about this before too. It's there's a worse version of this movie where they actually interact.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're divided, that you're having completely different narratives, but you both get to have these master classes with Julianne Moore is kind of amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, Billy basically had to have an affair, but not a sexual affair with my mother in the film. So we kind of had separate experiences, obviously.
Yeah, I was saying that was my favorite part, was that I got to work alongside him on the same project, but really we never interacted. We had one day on set together. It was my first day, and we did nothing. We walked past each other in the hallway, and I really liked that. And I was so stoked when I first watched the film, and I got to see all the other stuff that was happening, and it kind of felt like they were making 2 movies where there were just all these young actors hanging out, making this high school movie. And it seemed really fun, and then, my side was really fun as well, but it was in a domestic abuse shelter, and there was no other young people really. But Finn and I hung out a lot outside of the shoot, and we played a lot of pool, and we kind of talked about our days, and it was really nice to be working together, but not working together.
Yeah, it was really interesting just being it's the dead of COVID, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and there was just nothing, and it would just be me and Billy at a school basketball, elementary school basketball court, shooting hoops and just talking about the day, which it was very different kind of, even though we were working with the same people, very different sort of content-wise, the scenes that we were doing.
Finn has a low light reel of me missing a bunch of trick shots.
I do. Maybe I'll put that out one day. Yeah.
The Blu-ray special edition.
Yeah. It'll be on the director's commentary. It'll cut away.
Cut to that.
It'll cut to that. Yeah.
So, well, I guess the really obvious question is, what's Jesse Eisenberg like as an actor for 20-odd years, suddenly making a feature? Well, not suddenly, he's been working his way up to it, but you're both filmmakers now yourselves as well. But like, what is the experience of being directed by an actor like? Because as far as I can tell, this is the first time for you.
Yeah, I don't know. It was incredibly comfortable. I mean, he was so. I mean, first and foremost, he's like one of the funniest people in the world, and to just be around him is so exciting. But also, I mean, as a writer, I just love his writing so much, and so I was so anxious about getting it right. And he was so. I don't know. He really like humanized acting, like the job of acting, because I feel like there's a lot of like. I don't know, that the world of acting is very like weird, like because it's almost not real, like a lot of it, and like the way the actors talk to each other sometimes can be a little like mystifying or whatever. And he just was like, listen, we're all like weird neurotic freaks, and like we're making this as pretty vain, but also like we're having a good time doing it, and we're all sort of scared. And he sort of just walked me through that, and also was so he really knew how to talk to actors. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it, but he would say incredibly thoughtful things. His notes were so like thoughtful and would make you like really feel good. Like coming home from a day with working with Jesse, like you'd just be like, oh, like I did my job right. Which sometimes you don't get to say that. Sometimes you're like, I don't know what I did there. But the fact that he's just there, like sometimes like I would say something, oh, I flubbed that or whatever, and he'd be like, I know I think that, because he's thinking like I've thought that same thing before as well, but like you're wrong. Like he would, so he's very reassuring. And
Yeah, I feel like Jesse as a writer is more similar to him as an actor than it is as him as a director, because the script is so specific, and obviously he's such a specific actor. And I didn't know what the experience was going to be like. I loved the script, and I was so excited to do it, and I didn't want to change a word of it ever. But he was so he was just so open to the directing the performances in a way that was different than the script, and he wasn't precious about the writing in the way that I felt he maybe should have been, because it was so good. And I was like, I don't want to change any words. But he was so open. Yeah, I think just because he's been there a million times, he knew kind of exactly what he would have wanted people to say to him, and he just passed that on to us.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have since gone off and written and directed a film of your own.
Yeah.
Did you steal anything? Like, was there anything that he did that you was like, we have to do this, we have to incorporate it?
He made sets so fun. He was joking around all the time. So was Julianne. They're both so funny, and it was just such a light experience the entire time. Like he really just tried to make everybody feel as comfortable as possible, and he joked around all the time. And that, if anything, is what I took away from it. Was like, I just want our set to be as fun. It wasn't. To be as fun as that, because he was so. I don't know, it made the process so much easier to jump into. Just like you knew you were having a good time and felt like you were doing good work.
Yeah, there's something of like inclusion. Sometimes you're on a set where it's like so many people are working on it, and some people just like, it just feels like they're working a job or whatever, but like really everyone on that set, and hopefully on our set that we made, or the movie that we made, like everyone just feels included, like a part of it. And like, I don't know, I think that's a really important part, that everyone sort of can be like, oh, to me, like what was so cool, and I think I could see through Jesse, was that like Jesse came in his writing, he only really wrote plays, and so he would write them and then he wouldn't direct them, and people would go off and someone else would direct it and stuff. And so it was a lot more like, it felt maybe more like personal or something to him, and this is still very personal for him, but I could tell that like once he started directing, it was less pressure for him, because he was like, oh, this isn't just my movie anymore. This is like so many other people's movies. This is like so many other people's sort of like livelihood, and it wasn't just about, it's not just about me.
Actually, directing is kind of easier than I thought, because everybody else is just there to try and make you look good and do a good job. So it's like, oh, all these people who are really talented and knowledgeable are just helping us do a better job.
Yeah.
Like, this is a piece of cake. We had written the script before we had done this movie, and Jesse was one of the first people who we sent it to, and he was so supportive of it from the beginning. And he actually came to visit us on set, and
in like rural Ontario.
Yeah, he drove through Ontario
with his
family and visited us.
It was really sweet.
Super sweet.
Well, and before we open it up, because I'm sure you all have questions as well, I do want to ask about the casting. I mean, you were part of the audio book, the audio play.
Sure.
And Bill, your character didn't even really exist in that
No,
So how
it was a
did, how did,
newer idea.
No, but
How
he was
did you-
felt. You felt his presence in the audiobook through those beeps, sort of. Like I had known. Finn had told me he was gonna. There was a movie version of the audiobook. He's like, it's about this character and his mom, and I just was like, you know what? They should cast Julianne Moore. And then they did, because I think everybody ever has that thought when you write a movie. It's true. They should cast Julianne Moore. But I didn't even know there was this other teenage guy part, and I sort of touched on it earlier, but I got the audition and I felt sick to my stomach because I thought, oh no, Finn's gotten me this audition and he feels like he has to do that as a friend or something, and I just felt really nervous. And I had read the breakdown for the character, and it said that it was like a very shy mechanic who played basketball, and I was like, oh no, like this is not me at all.
With a heart of gold.
And I was saying, I thought it was going to be like
He has cancer.
I thought it was going to just be like The Blind Side or something, where he was just like super athletic guy, and I was like, oh, okay, so Finn's just forced them to see me for this part. And then I taped with my dad, who's actually over there. But I read the script, and I loved it so much, and I thought the character, I just remember feeling so relieved, because I was like, I'm probably not going to get this part, but at the very least, I'm not going to embarrass Finn, because I think I could do something with this character. And then it happened that Jesse really liked it, and we got to do the movie.
Yeah, Jesse was so funny because he was like, sometimes, because also Billy was very much working. It wasn't just like a thing of like, hey, can my friend audition? It was like Billy was, a working actor and was really talented. I knew he would be incredible, and so I asked Jesse if, he would maybe, be open to reading him, and he did. And Jesse was so funny because he was like, yeah, it's so funny, like I've heard, like you hear the cliche of people being like, can I audition? And he's like, there was no one else for the part. Like I saw hundreds of tapes, and it was the only one that worked. And it was great that it worked out, because obviously we're so close in person, in real life. I mean,
it also helped that Finn put it in his contract that he wouldn't do the movie
without
his did it too.
Exactly.
Which
I try to put that in
helps.
every film now.
Yeah.